Hello, everybody. How you doing today? It's me, MT Turtle. I'm here with Dr. David Jubb, and this is Jub Talk from No Mind Radio. Glad you're here with us today. We have a wonderful topic. It is about Giants. No, not the NFL Giants.
Well, why
actual
not?
Giants. What was that there?
Oh, well, I mean, most people that were small, they would consider others that were tall to be giants.
Sure.
More as a race.
Right?
Yeah, so, I mean, it doesn't mean that there were also very tall people and also extremely small, like the Florenzas.
How tall
they
were the
often were
Florenzas?
together because the Florenzas 3 feet.
Okay, so maybe that's where we should start, right? 3 feet.
Yeah.
And then we'll go up to 4, 5.
That's right. Exactly.
All right, so the Florenzas were the tiny giants.
Yeah.
3 feet tall.
Yes, that's right. And they really knew how to do rock work.
Really? And where did they
All the
learn
stories
how to do
are that they often actually help participate in building the walls and things. Right.
that? Where did they learn how to do rock
They
work?
were often transported on the big boats, and then there was a massive number of them in the Philippines, on an island, Florence Island, where the Florenzas come from.
Oh.
And they've just seen them there for 27,000 years or more. And of course, eventually Sunderland sunk, and now you're left with Australia sort of separated from all of that. But back then, Sunderland was lands just that connected Australia to, Asia.
So why didn't we find more? Well, in Australia,
boats
say,
would
short
take
people
these
in
people
Australia?
to various places like Hawaii, but then also in Scotland.
Oh.
There was a little city that was found that
A little
would
city.
be perfect if you were 3 feet.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there you go. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we started to 3 feet, right? How did we get all the way to, how tall did our giants get?
Okay, so we could talk about the largest footprint,
Okay.
like a sauropod.
A sauropod from a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a little bit under 2 meters, so it's sort of under 2 yards.
That's pretty big.
That's a big foot, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, 1.7.
And I'm glad they're not around.
In Australia, they found that in Western Australia. That's a pretty big footprint. They found huge footprints of our species too, but it's just like, how can you dial that in when you see something so big? You know what I mean?
How big was it for our
Huge, like 60 feet you'd have to be.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying that there was people about 60 feet tall roaming the earth at one point?
Well, we've got Devil's Tower, which is definitely a tree, and that's been petrified by a plasma discharge.
Really? Would you say a plasma discharge as in some kind of weapon?
No.
Okay.
Plasma discharge like that would have been like when Mars came close, or Venus.
Okay.
And terraformed like the Tibetan Plateau, for instance, and pushed it up and plateaued it out and pushed it against the mountains that you can see. It's just astronomical. But that's a terraformedness of the land from plasma discharge.
Okay. Caused by being close to.
Well, could you imagine
planet.
that the Deccan Traps, which was one volcanic action that just continued on for a long, long while in India? Yes.
Really?
It happened because a comet-like asteroid smacked into the Earth on one side, and the wave passes through and pushes a very low gravity point out from the mantle. And right there, you've got the lowest gravitational point in the world, in India. And that actually is a place called that, and it's the center. And they say that's the center of the Earth, and in fact, it is.
And that's in India.
Yeah.
The center of the Earth.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? They also
The
have
center,
the largest
as far as, what did I say? Gravity.
gravity.
The lowest?
Uh-huh.
Gravity. Right.
So wouldn't everybody be taller?
Well, no, not necessarily, because that's only a spot. Gravity varies. right?
Okay.
But if you go back to a smaller Earth, it's only 12 times smaller. So that you've got you've got 3/4 more gravity now than you would have had.
So our gravity is a lot stronger than it was when back in the smaller Earth. You're saying?
Oh, absolutely.
It was not as powerful as we are.
No.
As to what we're
It's
experiencing.
only one. It's three. It's 3/4 more
Okay.
than it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Therefore, we're shorter.
Well, we can
Better looking.
go back to a time when we were connected to Saturn as our solar system, and that was when we had a black sun. We didn't have the sun we have now. There's different sort of stories where a black sun exists for a moment in time where, soot or something comes up and what have you. But no, we're talking about an actual perpetual non-stop condition that we had a long time ago, which we really only had what's called a black sun. And that was when we were connected to Saturn, you see.
How long was that period?
Much shorter time ago than anybody would ever think, but probably starting only around about 150,000 years ago, really.
And it lasted for?
Well, at times there's been calamity that occurred because of all of that only would happen once in our lifetime, or once in a cycle of things that goes on. Mm-hmm. But it was when Saturn came in, and in between the Sun and Jupiter, and when Saturn came out, it pulled Jupiter out, but it left Earth in the orbit it is. Right. When it departed, it left Earth. And so in the process of this, of course, Mars and Venus all get sort of disturbed. And sure. Mercury and these things all are not necessarily known. Mars is sort of like known, and Venus is like considered a comet for a long while because it's got so much water sort of coming off it as it's like ripping around. When it comes close to Mars, that tail gets knocked off, yes, and you're seeing Venus where it is now. But both Venus and Mars all had Earth-like, water flowing and all this sort of a thing, you see? Yes.
Well, that'd be nice if it was all happening now, right? That way we could just go there and hang out.
The Toltec talk about there being 5 suns, or 5 eras, and this is the 5th sun, and they call this the son of earthquake.
Uh-oh. Which means earthquake, right?
I think that you've got earthquake machines that can generate earthquake.
Oh, no.
As a for a force multiplied sort of weapon and things.
Is that what they're using for fracking?
No, but that fracking does because it causes expansion and cracking down there.
And earthquakes.
It has, no question about it, set off a lot more tremors ever since all that goes on. Yes?
Yes.
So, if you've studied quite a bit, like I've studied astronomy and neurology and physiology, behaviour, and then topics like this sort of, you could put some maybe 53 hours of research behind. So most people could have never looked at what is the smallest pixelated dot, which is a JC quanta, but that's something interesting. So like a beetle could get a steady state kickoff in the air in its flight.
Wow, a beetle.
Yeah.
Well, and just to also let the audience know, I have studied none of those subjects that
you don't have to. No. It's just interesting, but it's really a right where anybody has to have an independent sense of things and have an ordinary proceededness, like our conversation and things, and conversations that we have together where people are.
Oh, the best.
And it's common, you see.
I love them.
And that's not special or anything. And it's a man or a woman, that's our species, not human, which is a colour of man. And you're not signing over any right or anything as a property that you have to think and consider things to anybody else. And then if it's only been guarded by as yours or my property so that you and we weren't able to kind of really really know what the past was. It's like, what's up with that? I mean, I really could care that most of all of us, we could present ourselves, you see, yes, and stick with what this is. And the tribunal, wherever it goes on where thinking is much more independent, you know, and that you've got your judge really, which is you and I, which is the witnesses, you see, yes? And so this is really like our right.
I want to go to where you said where our past was, what, hidden from us, or what'd you say? Anyways, doesn't matter.
Well, the sea floor pushes all the continents apart, and we used to have a very dry base.
Our past
when ice was water was up on top of the land,
being obscured
as
from us. Why can't we just know the truth about the past and everything? Why are they so afraid of us just knowing?
Oh, well, it's first of all existing that it's a wrong condition that you and I, we accept a service. We have a service provider that runs everything in a monopolization. You see, so that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And everyone wanted to get away from that, and that's what's gone on. And there's like 192 nations, yes, they're all under a
corporation.
A code.
Oh, a code.
A code, yeah,
That's right,
code. Not the law,
a
code. Like the code said, you know, children were no longer property. That's absolute untrue, you see. And so now, you see, a code got written by the black frock, white wig ones, and did they clean up to actually take people's children away? Yes, they did. But it's look, that's my property, not someone else, not another man's to enjoy for himself. You see, yes. And so even to this day, parental alienation is for rest of life. Matter of fact, you think that's an absolute harmful injury? Somebody has to look and go through their life that someone interfered like that. Well, that's what happened to my life, and I can see that it's happened to many people's lives.
It's happening right now with our government.
So evidence like of the past, what would be a reason why you just really don't care to let people know too much? Because it'd be very spiritual, wouldn't it, that you knew about your past? It'd be definite criminal that you're not privy to it. And how could you make a decision? It's like, sorry, no, that's a monopoly. There's no such thing as any conspiracy. That's just absolute rubbish.
So the past,
because when you have a monopoly, it's a monopoly. That's
and
it.
You know what? What are they hiding? Giants.
Well, cities that absolutely were existing in the new world.
And you're saying they got as tall as 60 feet back in the day?
We've got sauropod, and we know that we lived together with the dinosaurs.
And that sauropod, how tall? You said it was 150 feet tall?
Well, gee,
based on the footprint?
Huge.
Wow.
Yeah, 100 feet, I think.
It's a good thing they eat vegetation and not meat.
Yeah, they eat trees, mate.
Yeah.
Basically, you see.
It's a good thing.
But, you know, it could be...
They'd have to take one down.
Like if you think about life colloid and panspermia, and you know that a lot of spore is drifting around up there, and in the upper atmosphere you've got orchid and things that's like that, which is the smaller seed, and only floats back down to earth because it joins with the bacteria and algae. But you've got a complete shift and a slip of the mantle in relation to the Earth's liquid molten core in times, and at different times, like 35,000 years ago, and again at 12,500 years ago, roughly. If you go back, you can see one happened perhaps 50,000 years ago as well. So you've got three big shifts, and you know these equators have shifted during this time when that happened. Those shifts in polarity often could last some 88,000 years or something in a cycle, but there's no such thing as uniformity as far as that's concerned, you see, because things are not in a uniformity like what we've thought. And you have to see actually how the planets are falling behind the sun. But you can have spinning, that's going on inside a rock, because it has a magnetic field, and from north to south, and the Earth's current magnetic field is really being lost 10 times faster than it used to be, where measurements start to have to be. And a tapetum lucidum is made up of life colloid siderophyll, which have palladium within itself as a life colloid, and this is used like in the back of eyes, which if you shine a bright light, in the night, you can see sometimes spiders' eyes or even dogs' eyes glowing back to you. And it absolutely is palladium and material that's in there that's so reflective. It's radical.
Is it rare stuff?
No, I was just saying that we're composed of a whole range of things which have come to us a lot, especially all these noble elements and things, quite a bit, from all the asteroid impacts and everything.
Wow. Okay, so giants, due to they existed back then, and then due to every time the planet would expand and gravity would change, they would be as tall.
Yeah, because we don't have any big animals like that today, do we?
No.
Yeah, right.
And I know they found them in the U.S., right? Giant bones.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that just in the U.S. or is that everywhere?
No, that's pretty much like in most places because there was all the lands all connected, like in this story at one point. See?
Okay.
Smaller Earth.
And you said maybe they have technology or had technology that was pretty advanced back in those days.
Well, when you can find things which is absolutely radical, like terraforming of the land, only machinery could have done it. Carving in caves, absolute, no question about it. It was done by the machinery and things. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, really intricate stonework. Unbelievable, see.
Well,
so you've got living spore, of course, on all the levels of the atmosphere, and fungi and mushroom, a hardy life. They've got really great north negative rich substance to be able to survive easily the vacuum of space. And you've got fungal corteza, which is found in the International Space Station. It really is up to over 78% more of the spore, that symbiotic in relation can survive in space.
I would keep my
quite
eye
easily.
on that one. They found it on the space station?
Well, no, I'm only just saying just then that you could see things that could survive space.
Yes.
You see.
And I wonder how far it traveled to get there, and we better keep an eye on that one.
Well, certainly large chunks, 35 metres or more.
Really?
Would have been tossed up sometimes.
Kind of like seaweed.
They'd all be, on the other side of the galaxy now.
Yeah. Just seaweed flowing in the big old sea of gravity.
No.
Well, something within something could probably keep its environment relative if it was more minute, small or something, you see, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And like extremophile, which do exist.
Hey, stuff happens.
So melon, you could imagine in outer space, and why shouldn't you think of that as being more the black hole like melon? Because we don't think that life exists in space, but melon exists for sure.
See, I believe life exists in space, but that's me, Why wouldn't it?
The constellation of Cassiopeia is really where you've got 5 very bright stars, and they're kind of like in a W type of a shape in the sky. You can see them from the southern hemisphere. It's the northern constellation of stars, of course, and in the middle of the Milky Way down there, you see Cassiopeia. It's really the name of a queen of great beauty. But those 5 stars got sort of, names. But worms have 5 hearts. And could they have come from Cassiopeia? When planetary bodies were bombarded, of course, you've got large chunks like we just talked about, which come to Earth. And because Cassiopeia really is large enough chunks, easily able to survive deep interior and larger masses, of Of course, you've got enterobacteria and buggerdensis that are definitely would be mutated and things like that could go on where space is. Of course, living spore really, as at all levels of the atmosphere, like we were saying, you've got fungi, mushroom, and hardy life colloid, like we were talking about.
Love mushrooms.
Yeah? So why not be considered that some of the things exist like that because you've got water out there?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
There is water out there.
Well, melas.
Why wouldn't there be?
Just means black.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask anyone what's inside space, it's a force of like melanin influence, but that's inside, space, not like a planet or something. But you've got massive bodies, don't you? You see, huge mega life colloid.
Of course, if something exists on our planet, why wouldn't it exist somewhere out there in space? Well, I think it would be arrogant to think that. Huh?
If we look at the eye, that's the helix in the constellation of Aquarius, which is the closest eye to us, looking at us. Go and have a look at that. I mean, that's made up out of protein and water, just the same as an eye. And you could see how that lens could adjust itself to focus. And is that looking back at us? Have a look. Ooh. And that could be the back of your head. I mean, is that what a black hole is, really? I mean...
well, the only person I know with eyes in the back of their head is Aaron Rodgers. Other than that, I don't really know.
Well, something has gone so fast, faster than light. Did it come back to you?
Oh, did it?
Well, you've got forces like melanin that absorb light and genetic material influenced by sun exposure and light exposure that absorbs light. Melanin produces more to protect itself against sunlight and what have you, and absorb it. And so that the melanin harvests all that energy. And it's like a black hole, it's only sort of ultraviolet might come out of it. And that's exactly like what happens to melanin. So could melanin survive out of space and absorb all harmful radiation, which it turns such energy, which it can apply, So like polymer network, which could trap water within its structure, all looks like a macro level, but in a massive level, you see, within a vacuum. And so when you look through space and you're looking at the helix, which I'd ask people to have a look at, that's really great, because now you're going to look at an eye looking back at you. Now go ahead and find the hand of God, and you're going to find the hand, you see? So, I mean, if something has happened to stop oxygen production, for instance, on Earth, we've only got like 4 weeks more, and we're travelling through space, and we only have that 4-week supply. So you could imagine how fragile relative things are, you see.
How long would we survive without light?
Well, we could say that people could have lived in the Earth for quite some time during times where there would have been calamity, and we're still around, so would there have been times we lived and have to be under the earth more, or not having as much light?
I hear there's people under Malta, right, that can't see. They're tall and they can't see, that have lived under Malta. They're like giants or something.
Oh, well, there's places that are beautiful structures that are domestic inside mountains and things.
And they weren't built by us, huh? But by stronger, bigger people?
No, not necessarily. A lot of those things were built by us. I was just saying that the Florenses, for instance, built like large rock work.
And those are the short people. The tiny giants. Because they were giant in their head.
Well, like the wall in Hawaii, there's a good story about things like that.
Okay. We'll cover it one of these days.
Yeah, so like the closest organic mega celestial life colloid would be the eye, of course, in the Aquarius constellation, like we talked about, the helix, NGC 7293, I think it's called. But it's a planetary nebula, which really is a mega life colloid organ. It's really exact like an eye of God, of course. So Aquarius is our closest constellation where we are now since 2012, and 38 10-minute exposures was taken over 3 nights to give you that spectacular image that you'll have a look at. But it's really beautiful. It's only 650 light years, so it's very close by, in the constellation of Aquarius. So it's really got a lot of blue in it and gorgeousness in its colour. And it's the brightest planetary nebula to Earth, you see. Mm-hmm. Yes? So it's made up out of trillions mile-long tunnels of glowing gases, which really do have a white dwarf star within the centre of it, it's like a pineal gland, and resonance and water globes surrounding that by actin and myosin protein, which it does have the resonance of this. So it's exactly like an eye on Earth.
How big is it?
Well, I mean, this is huge, mate. This is like
supermassive
a planetary nebula.
So would you say how many Earths could fit in it? 1 billion?
Maybe. You see, I mean, it's huge. Actually, it's symmetrical eye, oval and shaped, just as half the diameter of the moon is.
Okay.
And it's also got cooler and more hot components, just like a real eye does. I mean, it's a giant eye in space.
So that's the giant eye. Because I'm glad we're still staying on topic with giants.
Well, yeah, but this is like gone to a mega celestial life colloid in space, which images taken from the Hubble in 2002. It got red, blue, and showing gorgeous colours, both low and high pitch sounds, act like a flying saucer, like sound, which is really what stimulates the pineal gland. But this structure you're looking at is really containing filament that's made out of cometary knots called long nebula or dumbbell nebula, which is a golden light that's surrounding a gorgeous turquoise blue. Look, I'm telling you, you're looking at an eye when you see this.
I know, okay? I believe you.
All right.
Now, you said the pineal gland?
Well, an eye is like a pineal gland, yeah, that's right.
Okay, and so UFO sounds stimulate the pineal gland.
Yeah, that's right.
UFO sounds.
Well, yes, a sound influences your body, like this sound of rain on a roof.
That would influence my ears.
It affects your lymph.
Okay.
And what about a sound that goes ka-tump, ka-tump? That's a heart sound.
Yeah, okay? Yeah. It's going to affect my what?
Your heart.
Okay.
And so a sound like...
Yeah, smacking your food while you eat.
It's called flippy pages.
Okay.
That's a sound which assists with digestion.
Digestion?
Yeah.
Flipping pages.
So sounds help with these things.
Oh, so if I'm flipping pages in the bathroom, that's going to help.
No, that won't.
Why?
I shouldn't be reading in the bathroom. It's really bad.
Really?
It shows absolute ridiculousness. It means that you're not mindful, doing something for the sake of itself. You're doing things overlay.
It's called multitasking.
Yeah, I know, but it's I think you should be not thinking when you're on the toot.
Getting stuff done, being efficient.
Yeah.
All right, giants. They found some in the U.S. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Why are they trying to hide the fact that there were giants?
Well, why would you not when you're only trying to think that, hey, tell everybody there's just been a uniform past, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there was no fusion, you know, we didn't know each other. Yeah. Why?
Bullshit.
Yeah, okay.
Control.
Thanks. Yeah. 25,000 BC, Alexander Helos, which is Cleopatra VII's son, to Mark Antony. He's here in Turtle Island. He's got like 500,000 more Kush, and they come across Turtle Island, they go to the Grand Canyon, they hang out in that big, huge cavern and things. Yeah. It's the Western Province.
Think about this.
In the Mississippi. And they go up there, and this is when the river is different. Of course, it all flows into the Embarrass River. And you've got these temples, and you've got entombments where King Jubba and Cleopatra are.
In Illinois.
And now you can't find Alexander, but I've seen coins and I've heard from someone when I was young, which caused me to be on the search, that Alexander is here as well.
Where would you
see? Huh?
South side
Phoenix,
of Chicago?
Or Memphis.
Memphis?
These are all names that he loves. These are all No,
Memphis, Egypt.
When you say Egypt, look, you're talking about the Massa who ran Egypt for a long while.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm talking about the name
You're talking about the Kush Moor who ran the Nile and all.
Oh, that's who I meant.
And had boats that went to Japan.
That's who I was talking about.
And mated with the natives
Kush
there.
Moor.
So 25,000 BC, you've got Alexander showing up with numerous other more Kush. They come here. There's their western province, and they entomb King Jubba and Cleopatra close to the Embarrass River. There, it's a great deal of artifact which shows how much in many boats that came. Gosh, it was just massive. And so you're going to say that this was never going on. It's just untrue, because all the terraforming of the land would have never been done just in 100 years or whatever it was, where it was said by people that just had carts and tents.
I bet I could get it done in 100 years.
No, you couldn't with carts and tents, no. You're looking at understanding things like, machinery, you see, so you don't have capacity to build machinery and things.
It's called leadership.
But you see this machinery in the past, in fact, which you're looking at something that could never be built, mate, today in the time frame that it was said it would, like the large building in Chicago, for instance. You have to look into that. But it's the Caribbean, really, also the Creek Indians, they have tales, of course, that's connecting these older, ancient, giants, and mostly, of course, the Kush Moor were all around 6 feet, 5'10", 6 feet. Mm-hmm. You've got 13 crypts that were found in Olney of King Jubba's term.
Wow.
And one is his and one... Yeah, so the Massa language is close to English. And so they called the river the Embarrass to embarrass you like crazy, that you reckon you found everything. When you're looking and finding these cartographic maps, which show so much of all the western province and things and cities and stuff, and show castles and show massive cities all through the New World, you see. So,
okay, did you get that, everybody around the world?
Okay. So you've got 13 crypts, one for the king and one for the queen, and each has got in their own crypt. You've got artifact which is written in stone, massive amounts of stone, which tells the story Alexander Helos did, and he goes, "Hey, we were persecuted like crazy, non-stop, and we have had to come here to resettle," and that's what the story's about. You see, so there's a treasure that's there to settle everything up again, and still untouched. It was only opened by the French, maybe 150, 200 years ago, probably.
The French?
Yes.
In Illinois?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And so it was opened, you see, and shown back then. And then it was found again, in the early 80s. But it's really been a duty down south, of course, of the sun god, and middle America, which is about Alexander Helos. The story really is about it opened up by the French some time ago, the crypts and things, the entombment. But a solid gold sarcophagus is there, of course, and Ra, the sun god, of course, artifact and massive treasures there of gold, which King Jubba's treasure and encyclopedic library and things, and a definite it is, because there's scrolls and things in his last letters and stuff that he wrote, and missing a son of Cleopatra, of course, and Mark Antony is Alexander Helos. Many sailing ships, you've got just such massive back then, and you've got such incredible technology in the building of ships and launching them into the water and this sort of thing. Stones were left to save ourselves was on the story from persecution, you see. Yes. And they were being persecuted by this strongman slaver that had run over everybody in Rome.
So if they would lie to
you could learn about that. Huh? Some of these people were brutal and the most highly unethical that you could ever imagine.
If they could lie in the Illinois area, would they find all these wonderful treasures?
The bloke who I know that when back in the time when we look in this, it's not to be. Why? Because you're living in a time that unless you really have your proper status and you do the things that you can, you're not going to get anything.
Of course not.
Okay, so like
how do we know it went already looted?
You're going to tell me that everything that goes to the museum you don't is going to be fine with you. I'll tell you what happened with all those artifacts, and it's a shame. But let's just go on with everything, because you've got a museum you don't. Examined artifact, numerous, shows Alexander Helis really was there, and able to entomb King Jubba and Cleopatra. You've got to keep in mind that the nickname for Southern Illinois is called Little Egypt.
What? Are you serious?
And now it's stuck, of course, long time back. Phoenix, Cairo, Anubis, Jackal. You've got the Celtic prince, the bull carvings and things. 1,500 years ago, you've got Mithra, the sun god, Nubis. You see, you've got 300 AD, because it's aligned entrances and things. You could see various things that was set up.
Just like Minnesota Vikings.
So you've got illuminated symbols, which all really are about the cycle of life, and they're found all over Texas. You've got Celtic travellers living in the heartland of America, and certain back in 1300s early, you've got Scottish people and a bloke from Scotland setting a village up in Nova Scotia. It's called Little Scotland. And the first explorers, of course, and the originals will tell you when they came and things, and then what people over time came, which Cloud told me. But the first explorers found quite a varied group and race of people. Anubis, and the shadow is to pass over a light, and the shadow casts in a painting and things, and it shows a wedge of light that pans across a knob as a shadow of this drawing, and it's just showing you when the sun goes down at this point, the lights are going to go out, and they were telling you when this was going to happen, and it's in a cave painting, you see? And how could somebody know such exact that they would draw it so that they could put these pictures right on the wall and make it so that the
maybe
light
they made up their story
that would come through the rock.
They're just having a good time and making up a story as they painted.
The NASA had massive cartography, all right? Okay. They were, and they left 52-degree angle, 51-degree angle everywhere, 51-degree angle. Why?
No, I
because
don't know
that shows you that you must know the mass of the Earth. You can measure the Earth.
With the 51-degree angle.
Yeah, because if you knew that, you know that that's the angle that goes from the equator to the pole.
Okay.
So someone made an incredible map, and Anubis Cave, which is here on Turtle Island, of course, all looked at as if it sort of arrived, and a cover-up has been of the Vaticanus, of course, because you've got the Kincaid bloke who find all these hieroglyphs, and it's oval-shaped doors, chiseled passageways and things like this, and crypts of mummies, and the entire underground city was symmetrical and deliberate design. And you've got found in there warriors, all burial room, and many centuries, it seemed, thousands of artifact and platinum and things, and stoves, which were called cat eyes and things like this, and sort of engravings with relations of prehistoric animals.
All laundered through the system of museums.
Well, what would have happened that you just said you found everything and you gave all the history books, but you just are frightened that people might know the truth about something?
For one, they'd take me out.
You're going to have it a lot covered up. The museum you don't all gets disappeared. It's embarrassing. That's why that is on the Embarrass River. The advanced race was here. Criminals don't care to negotiate nothing. And the Rainbow Prophecy really is more about how you're all getting back things more through common law. But 12,000 kilometres away from Egypt, you've got evidence such really has been going on, in history, hand-carved in caves, also giant sarcophagus, massive giant bones have been found empty.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us today. As you can see, we have more to talk about. We might have to do a second episode on giants, just to get a little bit more into the giants and, see where they led to, where they ended up. A lot of people think New York because of the New York Giants. I tend to think of something else. Anyways, folks, you have a wonderful day. And Dr. Jubb, what would you like to leave them with today?
I'd say that each of us that could be more autonomous in ourself, and that your balancedness is in your self-autonomy and your own interrelatedness, and that all of us can be more functional and to be together more, where which each individual can bring out your fingerprint, which is individual, of course. Something is unique about the way that you are and what your set is. And isn't it that all of us have our strength when this is drawn out more? Yes, I'd say so.
All right. There you go, folks. And tell yourself to bring yourself right into the moment. I am and I care.
Well, a fusion existed. That's what our story's about, versus it was just uniform. Nothing ever occurred. That's a lie.
Giants.
That's a lie.
All right, folks. Talk to you on the next one.